Hello everyone, I am David Norman, Managing Director of Deed Solar, and today we are at my neighbour's house and we are doing a solar installation. So the spec of his system is 21 460 watt Aiko Gen 2 panels with 32 kilowatt hour of battery storage, which is combined of two 16 kilowatt hour Fogstar battery stacks, as well as a Myenergi Zappi EV charger because he's got an EV, and we're doing a manual changeover switch. We've got a Sunsynk 8 kilowatt inverter. So lots going on here. I don't think you could really do any more than what we're currently doing. We're fitting smoke alarms. There is loads going on. Come with us. We'll show you through all the products and why we've spoke about and chosen all of the things that we have. Come and have a look. Let's go. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the roof design. So we've completely maximised that power generation by installing as many panels as possible on a south-facing orientation. We have 21 460 watt Aiko panels. That's a total of 9.6 kilowatt peak hour system. So the customer's anticipated annual usage, once he has a heat pump installed, is about 7,000 units a year. So we've oversized the system to ensure that he's still got enough power to charge his car, run his heat pump, and for those winter months. We've finished the roof installation off with a black bird mesh, and overall I think the boys have done a wicked job. So now let's take a look at the panel we've chosen and why. I have got one in the van so we can take a closer look. Okay, so let's start with the panels. So what panels shall we put on? We decided to use the Aiko NeoStar Gen 2 partial shade 460 watt panel, which is next to me here. It is, as you can see, complete jet black. There's no silver Busbar that you normally get. Aiko is a brand who have been around since 2009, so fairly new, but also, you know, they are one of the most efficient panels. So the Aiko ABC range has a 23.1% efficiency, which is the best domestic panel you can get on the market at the moment. Okay, so the Aiko has a 25-year product warranty and a 30-year performance warranty. It offers long-term peace of mind for the customer because of the warranty period. What really separates the Aiko ABC range is the cell technology for partial shade. So we have a shading technology within the panel. So we have the ability with every panel to maximize performance by reducing or improving the optimization at cell level. So really important for anyone who has got the possibility of potential shading. So for example, on this project here, we do have a shading factor. We have trees in the garden, and so this panel is perfect because the way that the technology works is that whereas a conventional panel will have typically 3 sections of the panel, so it will be split into 2/3. It'll be split into thirds. So you'll have a section here, you'll have a section here, and you'll have a section here. And out on those 3 sections, you'll potentially have a bypass diode across each section. So bypass diode, bypass diode, bypass diode, which means that should a part of this panel being shade, then it won't affect the performance of those other 2 sections. So with you know, the more conventional panel, you're losing like 1/3 of that performance if there is shading on that section. Whereas if the shade went over 2 sections, that potentially will just knock out the panel completely. With the cell technology that we've got in the Aiko partial shade panels and this is quite important because I don't think a lot of people really understand this. I thought they just originally had more bypass diodes, and I thought it was that reason that it was able to improve or maximize the optimization of the performance. But it's not. It's actually through another technology, which is known as a concept known as a soft breakdown of semiconductors. So this means that the cell enters a non-destructive state, which means that the energy can move around them. So whereas a conventional panel, you will lose a third of the panel just by a leaf landing on the cell, with the technology that they're using, we're able to bypass that with non-destructive. Obviously, when it enters new cells, it's non-destructive and it kind of flows round. So we get a better optimization, which means better performance, which means more power for the customer. By having this technology in the panel, it's a lot of money you're saving by not using panel optimizers like Tiago or Tigo panel optimizers. So they're at an additional cost. With the built-in technology that Aiko are using, you know, you could potentially be saving money. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the two technologies are the same. They're different, and so there will be scenarios where you still need panel optimizers if you've got heavy shading. But I think for light shading projects, for example, that we have here, it's a perfect solution without the extra cost needed. Aiko clearly are stepping forward in what they're doing in terms of innovation, right? No one else, everyone's kind of got comfortable in the solar panel market, and everyone just wants another 5 watts. I think Aiko, it's obvious why they're the most popular panel in the UK at the moment, and therefore we will continue to install this with confidence until someone else decides to do anything better. But for now, Aiko it is.
So, shall we talk about what's going on inside, Dave?
Yeah, let's go and have a look. I better put the panel somewhere safe, actually. Let's go and have a look. Okay, so we're here at the Fogstar batteries, and we just wanted to run through and explain a little bit about Fogstar, who they are. So Fogstar, so each one of these stacks is a 16 kilowatt hour stack, and it's comprised of loads of cells inside, 16 cells inside. I don't know if many people would hear about them, because unless you're really active in that space and looking at the kind of maybe more DIY battery range, I don't know if you would come across them in terms of advertising. So if you're looking for like home solar, I don't think you would be seeing the adverts from Fogstar, because they're a bit more targeting to the DIY kind of user. But they're a brand that's been around a long time. They're UK based, and they import all the parts and put it together, so that they're using like SEPLOS, BMS, and different makes of the product, which is all going into the housing. This housing is the white version, but they do a black, a white, and maybe a silver. So Fogstar have got like really good reviews on Google. If you look at them, I think they've got over 1,000 reviews. So a lot of happy customers, and I think it's like quite a niche, because there is that target audience of DIY. You know, ultimately as well, it's cost, isn't it? Because the way you've done this, the reward for the cost per kilowatt hour is so significantly less than what it would be if you were doing a Tesla or, you know, another well-established home battery brand. So by doing it this way, you haven't really had to do a lot. It's just understanding maybe where we are cautious to go into that world of like DC battery and that power, but the reality is it was fairly straightforward. And you know, if I spin it around, we can take a look at what it looks like to build one of these batteries. So it comes kind of boxed without all of the components put together. And our customer here, he has taken the time to follow step-by-step guide and do lots of forum, you know, hunting and speaking and getting familiar with it. And we've pieced together all of these battery cells. We've got a BMS unit, which is up the top here. We've got a battery balancer here, which has actually got third party, because again, through the research on forums, he found out that there's a better version. So he's gone with that advice. We've got our Busbars connecting all of our batteries. We've got temperature sensors and isolation switch, on-off switch. Cover will go on there. And the fact that just by doing that, he has probably saved somewhere in the region of about £4,000 in terms of cost per kilowatt hour for a 32 kilowatt hour battery storage system. So there is a real benefit to doing it, but you know, you've got to want to explore that world and learn and understand it. We'll see more and more people doing this, because to get the scalability at the fair price point, it's kind of, you know, the only way someone is going to get the scale at a really, really reasonable price. I think Fogstar are definitely going to do stuff. They've got a wide range of batteries. So, obviously, we've been speaking to Fogstar and are looking to do more with them. So we'll be able to do this. But, I mean, there's various places that this will be useful, especially if you was doing like an off-grid system and, you know, it's compatible with multiple different inverters. So because it uses that SEPLOS BMS, it kind of works similar to the Pylon Tech BMS, where we can set the inverter to work with Pylon Tech and it will pick up the same parameters as it will with the SEPLOS. So it will work with lots of different range. We're using a Sunsynk inverter here, but you know, lots of opportunity, I think, in the UK market for this right now. So we'll be really keen to see it up and running and performing. I'm sure my neighbour will as well. So so here we've got obviously two 16 kilowatt hour batteries which we've built together. Each battery comes with an 8-year warranty. They actually do another model of this battery that they've just brought out, which is a 32 kilowatt hour model, which is a single unit. So where we've got two here and it's all pre-built, where it's all built on site. So we're building it, it comes, you know, as a kit. The 32-hour one that they've done is pre-built with a 10-year warranty, and that comes with a JK active balancer as well. So the price for that is £3,500. So where these are £1,800 each, the pre-built one is £3,500. So it's nice that you've got that pre-built version. So if you don't want to really get into the nuts and bolts, as it were, you can go for a pre-built model at a really reasonable price, and it can be rigged up to a load of inverters. So obviously the weight of moving that could be quite challenging. These are over 100 kilograms each, and they're on wheels, which is quite a nice touch. So that's pretty handy, but it's bloody heavy, and once you've got twice the amount of that in one unit, that's going to be a challenge getting it in position. But to be honest, what battery isn't these days? The batteries are LFP batteries, which is pretty much standard now in the UK. So they are, if you don't know what they are, lithium phosphate, and they are typically less combustible, and that's why they're safe. It's unlikely you'll see an LF battery combust. They expand rather, so there's movement inside the module rather than that sort of immediate combustion. So LFP, which is brilliant, it has 8,000 cycles, 1C discharge, which 1C again falls in line with top end brands and dischargeability. Obviously 8,000 cycles is, to be honest, pretty decent. Like, I can name some bigger names like Fox, who on the EP11 new battery, which we do a lot of, nothing wrong with it, it's fair value, but with that you only get 4,000 cycles. Obviously that doesn't mean when it gets to 8,000 cycles the batteries are just going to be dead. It just means that you're going to get a percentage reduction of the original usable capacity, so it might drop down maybe 10-20%, but ultimately it will just keep going for as long as it goes. Who knows how long? Ask me in 15 years and I'll tell you. But yeah, really good, really interesting. Let's see what it does.
Okay, I was looking for a solar system for quite a while, and prices have come down recently quite significantly. I fully intend to remove myself from the gas connection, and to do that I needed a big solar system and big batteries, enough battery storage to power the house independently from the grid and come off of the gas connection, which reduces costs. Currently there's a £7,500 grant for installing heat pumps if you're removing a gas boiler, so that's another thing that encouraged me to go all electric. Obviously I also have an electric car, so having a car charger at home makes an awful lot of sense, and one like the Zappi, which can directly charge my car from the solar when I need it, is a bonus.
I feel like it was about a year ago there was like loads of hype about something.
Yeah, now it's got a bit quiet, yeah. Agreed.
I started my solar journey just using a couple of Ecco Flow batteries and a couple of panels in the garden, and that was kind of like a proof of concept. Once you get a panel and you realise how much energy is out there freely available, you start to think, is that investment in solar worth it? And for me, it definitely was worth it. I decided to go with Fogstar because I like their modular SEPLOS V4 battery stacks. These are essentially very simple battery systems, very well priced in comparison to what else is available on the market. For me, it was all about the payback. If I have a reliable battery, believe I do, price that the Fogstar batteries are available, the payback period is significantly shortened compared to paying for a much more advanced battery. The SEPLOS V4 kit comes as a self-assembly kit, very simple to put together. If you played with Meccano or Lego as a kid, then you can do it.
So we're talking through the Fogstar batteries, which our customer put together himself. As David explained, they're suitable for DIY users. And now let's see what the team have been doing. Let's see if Dave's been working hard or not. So we've got fireproof boarding.
You asked me a question.
I'm talking. I'm yapping.
So to be fair, it didn't need fibre boarding because it's on a solid wall. But
it's just kind of for peace of mind a lot of the time.
It's not even that. It's not. I don't even think it. The reason I still do it, obviously, because it's an expense, right? So the question is, why do you bother? But I do it because I think it like frames the system really well. I think it's like a bit of.
It's an OCD thing.
It gives it like a border, like kind of frames it like a work of art.
Are you Da Vinci then? Yeah, this is going to be roughly a 2-day job, just getting the system built and put together. And yeah, we'll try and show you as much of that journey as possible. If this is not the biggest USB you've ever seen, I don't know what is. It's not actually a USB, it's a Wi-Fi dongle, but it looks like a USB. It goes into the inverter for your Wi-Fi and communication. What I was gonna say is that the 6-core cable? What did you call it?
3-core H07 6mm.
That's exactly what I said.
3 core, 827, 6 mil. Is what it is.
So it's got 3 cores. What are the 3 cores?
Live, neutral and earth.
Okay, that
So
makes
live carries the, imagine a circuit in school where it goes in a ring, you have a light bulb and a switch, yeah? So you have like this.
sense. Now I'm getting a physics lesson.
So light bulb, and then
I think you need a new pen.
that's it, yeah I do, that's the switch. And it goes like that, yeah? So the power goes from here, this way, like that. So that's a live, taking the current that way, and that's your neutral, bringing it back.
And then the earth is so that...
And the earth is, so if there's a fault, that it passes over to earth and down to ground. So the earth is to carry fault current. So when there's a fault, so if I cut through these cables together, the current that was in going down that live would then travel down the earth to ground, obviously.
Yeah, because some fat cable, no?
Yeah, boy.
They're not always that fat, though, is it?
Bit OTT.
Better to be oversafe than undersafe.
Well, the inverter's 8 kilowatt, so
8.8.
8.8, so 8.800 divided by 230 volts. What's that? That'll tell you the ampage.
Divided by 230, yeah?
Yeah.
That's 38.2.
So the cable needs to be able to have a current carrying capacity of 40 amps, basically. So this is 6 mil HO7, which will be around that. It'll be higher than that, probably about 50 amps to 6 mil. But
What's a 4 mil?
4 mil probably go up to about 45 amps, maybe.
Okay, so you could have got away with 4 mil.
Probably could have got 4 mil, but it's quite a long run. It's like a 15, 20 metre run.
So you take into account the voltage drop.
Exactly. Which with solar, they typically like a sort of 3% voltage drop rather than 5. So.
I'm learning so much. What did you say?
So ferrules that we're using here that I'm putting on are because it's a multi-strand cable, and anything that's multi-strand should have ferrules. The good thing about using multi-strand is it has a higher resistance, so it has a higher carrying capacity because it has a better resistance than like a single core. So you know, like your what in most houses they have T&E, which is twin and earth, which is normally like single strand, so it has a like the current carrying capacity of that cable is less than this because it's multi-strand, so it has a higher resistance, better current carrying capacity.
I don't have a clue what you just said, but...
It basically means this cable can carry more current than what you would normally have in your home.
More power.
Yeah, more power. Okay, so as you can see, we are wiring a Sunsynk inverter. So Sunsynk have been around for 20 years now, so they've got 20 years of experience. They're quite popular in the UK now, so I think demand increased a few years ago for Sunsynk. I noticed a sort of upturn in Sunsynk demand a few years ago. They become quite popular in the polling. So in terms of battery compatibility with the Sunsynk, they've got a wide range of compatibility across battery manufacturers. So we're using SEPLOS batteries, which are effectively put together by Fogstar for UK retail, but are a SEPLOS battery. They have a 5-year warranty as standard, and it can be extended to 10 years if it's with Sunsynk batteries, so something to consider. Most inverters are sort of 10-year as standard, which you can get with the Sunsynk as long as it's paired with the Sunsynk battery. This inverter we're doing is the 8 kilowatt inverter, or 8.8, The DC input on this, we've got quite a large scale PV. The input on this, the maximum is 10.4 kilowatt peak hour of DC input, and so we're within that on our system. We've done the configuration as 2 strings, and it is a dual tracker MPPT inverter. Now there is, under the bottom here, there is 4 inputs, MC4 inputs or string inputs. Even though it's a dual tracker, you can put 2 of those in parallel. But we're just using string 1 and string 2 because we've only got 2 strings coming off the roof. Yeah, so there's not many inverters that work efficiently with other battery manufacturers. So this inverter can take up to 50 kilowatt hour of DC battery, and it has a wide range of battery manufacturers that it's compatible with. So it's versatile in that respect, and why it's a good suit for this project. We're doing it with the Fogstar batteries, and we're not too far away from pairing it. In terms of our configuration here, we've used a Sunsynk Busbar, which you can see here. So there's not many hybrid inverters that go up to the maximum size they do. They do the 8, the 10, the 12 and the 15. Now 15 kilowatt hour single phase is quite unique. There's not many brands that go up to the 15 kilowatt single phase. So most hybrids go up to about 6 as kind of standard. So 15 kilowatt single phase inverter, which is a 4 string, is pretty decent. So as you can see, we've put the Sunsynk Busbar in here. So our battery cables, we've got these big old monster 70mm DC cables, which are going to come down from here into our DC fused isolator, into our Busbar, and then we'll split it into our master and slave battery. What is there to know about Sunsynk? It's IP65 rated, so it's fine to go outdoors, although they do recommend, like most manufacturers, we're doing it in a utility space here, but if it was to go outside, you would need some kind of canopy over if it was on a south facing wall to prevent direct sunlight. The system will work with a CT clamp, which is a consumption transformer, and will look something probably outside, but it has a consumption transformer which is measuring the surplus energy or the energy at the import meter, which is telling the inverter, which is basically the brains of the whole installation. It's telling the inverter when to charge and when to discharge. That's what I'm wiring up here. Don't know if you can see these small tiny cables. Yeah, so this is for the consumption transformer, which is going to tell the inverter when to charge and discharge and so on. You can use like an E-strom meter and other forms of measuring, but we're using a consumption transformer on this one. Now there is a DC isolator on the side of the inverter here, which you can see, which I'm touching there. MCS talks about external isolation now as something that potentially, you know, you tell me, what do you think? There's been a lot of talk recently about putting in external DC isolators as more of a risk than not putting them in. I think MCS is specifying not to put them in if it's built in on the inverter. What do you think? Leave a note in the comments. We've left it with the DC switch on the inverter for now, but we have the room to fit isolators externally as well if need be. What do you think? Do you agree with MCS, or do you think we should fit external ones? So there's a lot going on inside. We've got the ability for a generator connection if we want to do it. We've put in our grid supply and our load supply. This inverter has the ability to run backup load, so you can wire that either as a maintained board, like a maintained consumer unit, so it runs constantly off the inverter, meaning that if the grid was to go down, the inverter would continue to feed that supply maintained board. Or you could do what we're doing, which is a manual changeover switch, which gives us a little bit more control in terms of how much load we put on, because we can do what's called load shedding on the DB side. So on here we're doing a yeah, a normal supply from the home, which is like a radial supply, and we've got a EPS supply going back. So we've got our 2 feeds, which is our normal grid isolator and our EPS backup isolator, and then in the event of a power cut we can go on to the EPS supply. It has a backup generator input as well, so if we was running something more off-grid, then we could have a dry contact feed from a generator, so for auto start generator, so when there wasn't enough solar or battery power, the generator could kick in to charge the batteries and so on. So that's an option as well. We can hardwire into these ports here for internet connectivity, although we're right by good connectivity, so we're going to be fitting the hardwired dongle, which is pretty easy to set up. Yeah, so I'll show you more once it's all complete. These are the Eve MB31 cells. So it's a 1 kilowatt hour cell. We have 16 of those in one stack here. So that is what the battery looks like, much like a battery you would probably see on a golf buggy. Not quite, but similar.
Solar powered coffee in one. Soaking up the sun. It says soaking up the sun.
Lovely. Free coffee from the sun and the customer. Okay, so we've spoken about the panels, we've spoken about the inverter, we've spoken about the battery. So now let's talk about the system. So the customer came to us with his own request. So he knew he wanted the Fogstar setup. We found the best inverter to suit that would be the Sunsynk. And he also wanted the EV charging, and he wanted the off-grid capability. So in this system, we have a grid-tied inverter, which means we can do our export because it's grid-tied. And we've also got the backup capability as well to run off-grid. And so if I explain to you how that all works, so you've got your incoming supply from the grid, you've got your import meter, and then we have then installed our own distribution board local to the incoming supply. It was a bit awkward on this one. We had to come underneath this step here with our towels because he wanted the meter box hidden behind this bush as it grows back out. And inside that board we have fitted a manual changeover switch, which is this switch on the end. That will allow us to flick between grid and off-grid. So basically what that's doing is when we go into off-grid mode, it's disconnecting the grid completely so that we can't send power back down that line and obviously put someone in danger working on that cable. We have the ability to choose if we're on off-grid. Obviously in normal operation, we're gonna stay on grid because we wanna maximize on export. We also have an EV charger. So with the EV installation, it's important to get the configuration right of where you're putting the circuits and the measuring devices on an installation. So an installation that has solar, battery and EV charging, an error that we see really common is people are confused about where to position everything. So the EV charger should be before the load of the home so that you can take a measurement of the true home load, so that the battery, because it's a DC coupled battery, it can't be distinguished as its own entity. So we need to be able to detect the load, the true load of the home, and to do that we have to separate the EV charger out of it as it's a high load. What we essentially don't want to do is charge our battery, home battery, and then dump that power into our car battery because it just sees it as a part of the home load, when ultimately it's not. You know, you don't want to charge your small home, but your 10 kilowatt home battery to charge your 100 kilowatt car battery. Not economical. So we've done that on here. We've broken our circuits down, so we've fitted a distribution board for our EV. We fitted a distribution board for our PV, so we always try and keep our PV independent, on its own independent supply off of the home supply, because again it gives us a level of distinguishment, as well as on top of that we have the ability to, so with a home, you know, the size of the systems we're installing these days are very big. So it's probably too big anyway for the home consumer unit. So we've got independent suppliers for our PV and for our EV charger that allows us to measure it all correctly. It allows switch gear protection to be correct, and we've got the surge protection on our circuit because solar equipment, battery storage, inverters, they come under a what I would call a high purchase, like a high value item. So in the BS 7671, I think one of the SPD regs is, you know, protecting sort of high value equipment. So AC surge protection has been installed. Yeah, so grid changeover switch, supplies for the inverters, supplies for the car charger, and all of our measuring devices in a nice box hidden behind a bush. And then we come round here and we've got our cables, our big chunky cables. So 6mm HO7, which is like a rubber cable, high current carrying capacity, really easy to work with. We've got EV Ultra, which comes round for our Zappi car charger, and all of that just flows right round. At the moment, that is currently in and charging his car. So in action right now, this is currently working on eco mode, so it's taking surplus energy from the panels as we speak. So that's all working, and the customer's got it all on his app and, you know, everything else. So he's got the ability from the Myenergi software to monitor all of this as well. 3 really meaty cables coming through. That comes all the way through, and comes through into our battery room, built for purpose. So this room specifically has been enclosed and built to keep temperature in and risk out, if you like. And then we've got our PV system. So this space has been boxed off. We've put smoke alarm up, wired interconnected smoke alarm up in here. This is a built for purpose room. And then we come round to our installation. And that's it. And then we've got our inverter, our generation meter, our grid isolator, our backup isolator. We've got our battery isolator, lots of isolators, our Busbar, our batteries, and that is the entire system. So now I guess let's do a walkthrough on the system and how it all works and what's working. So the power that comes from there, from the meters outside in the consumer unit, comes through, and you can see all this quite easily on a line schematic or a line diagram, but it comes through into our generation meter, which is clocking every kilowatt hour. Generation meters are what's registered on your MCS certificate, so they are important, and they give us a reference as what's being generated and also if the system's working. So that comes through an isolator which feeds the inverter. So that cable that is connected from the grid, if you like, through our meter, through our isolator into our inverter, that then carries the power going to the inverter, but also back. So depending on what way the current's flowing, if you're charging the batteries, then the current's coming from the grid, going through the inverter into the batteries. If you're sending surplus back to the grid, then that current is passing back down that way towards the grid. And all of that is picked up by measuring devices, which allows us to have this report on the screen and on the app and show us the energy flow and what's going where and how much. So we've got the grid side, we've got the backup side, which gives us a direct feed in an off-grid scenario where we can break the grid connection completely and run the home independently. We've got our battery, big meaty battery cables there, because we have 2 16 kilowatt hour batteries here in parallel. So from the isolator, we've got obviously a battery cable big enough to handle that. And we've got it on a DC isolator here. So one pull down of that will detach the fuses and break the battery connection. And also there's fused as well. So if there is any problems, it will blow on the fuse. We've got it on a Busbar arrangement, which is always recommended when you're doing high quantity storage or high volume. We've got our two 16 kilowatt hour batteries. We've got our DC cables which run out to the roof. And that's a PV system. That is our lovely PV installation. Let me know if there's anything you want to know or anything that I've explained. If you've got any questions, then don't forget to comment in the comment section, and look forward to hopefully hearing all the nice things you've got to say about it. Tailoring bespoke systems is obviously really important for us. I think we have the ability to do that, so we want to do that. So we're not trying to direct you into a product that we want to fit because we want to just do this product and you're going to love this product. If you're out there doing research, you find something you like and you're trying to find someone to install it, I think there's a bit of a gap at the moment, people trying to find people to install Fogstar and other unique bespoke systems, off-grid systems, then that's where I like to think we are number one. So yeah, reach out, Deej Solar. Thanks for watching and look forward to seeing you on the next one.